Hello. I guess we're going to start with me. This is the same person with the beautiful Niagara Falls behind us. For some of our international visitors, that's one of the appeals to coming to our region, of course, is not only is it the largest wine producing region in Canada, close to the major cities of Toronto and Buffalo, New York, right across the border, but of course we have this world wonder of Niagara Falls that is literally 15 minutes drive from the Niagara-on-the-Lake campus, which is where both of these programs are offered. This good-looking gentleman beside me is Adrian Popovich. He's going to be talking to you about the brewery programs in a moment. And I'm going to kick things off by talking a little bit about the Winery and Viticulture Technician Program, which is a 2-year diploma. You know, it's as Fiona introduced this idea that this really is an amazing time to get involved in the beverage alcohol industry in Canada. It's really exploding. It's innovating at a level that we've never seen before. We've got such a broad consumer base, the established consumers that have been interested in Canadian wine and beer for decades, many decades. But we've got this whole new audience that's arrived on the scene as well. And as a result, we've had to diversify, we've had to be creative with the products that we're producing. That's exactly what we specialize in at the college, is to really stay at the cutting edge of technology and trends and marketing and sales, so that when you graduate from any of our beverage programs, you are well equipped to jump into the industry on a number of different levels, whether you're jumping straight into production, which is what these courses really more than anything else are preparing you for, or whether you decide to carry on with further business training through one of our business programs at the college, specifically our brand new beverage business management program. We're just really pleased with the placement that we've seen from these programs. Adrian will talk specifically to the beer, but you know, the wine graduates, I would estimate, I don't have firm numbers, but I would say 80% of our graduates are working in the wine industry in some capacity or another. And then the other 20% have either opted to carry on in school and move into a slightly different field, or in some cases, they may be new residents in Canada and have opted to choose a different career path, but have been able to use that as a path to achieve citizenship and make Canada their home. So there's a lot of benefits to joining us at the college and to dipping your toe in the world of beverage alcohol. So our program, the Winery and Viticulture Technician Program, has been around for a long time, more than 25 years. And so we've got hundreds and hundreds of graduates out there working in all aspects of the business. You know, if we look at the wine business generally, we're talking from the production side about you're either working in the winery itself in the winemaking side of things, or you've decided to specialize more on the growing side of things and you're devoting your time to viticulture and grape growing, et cetera, et cetera. And we are seeing our students, frankly, all over the world doing just those things. Probably the majority end up working in wineries, in production. Part of that because of the connections they make to the industry when they're in the program via guest speakers and field trips, and specifically their capstone or their practicum project, which I'll talk about briefly in a minute, where they get to meet industry leaders and develop connections and literally start, you know, nurturing those relationships. So when they do graduate, they've walked straight into a good paying job in an industry that they've fallen in love with, in an aspect of the industry, hopefully, that they really feel like they want to specialize in. So it's certainly not an easy path. It's a very intensive program, 2 years, and we don't really back down. You know, lots of strong science background is important, as you know, from the admission requirements. You need to have adequate backgrounds in chemistry and or biology and math, et cetera. And that just sets you up for more success. So if you come in well equipped with that sort of passion for the industry, or at least an interest, a keen interest in the industry, and you have that academic strength in the background, and you're looking to get working in the industry right away, while you're in school, ideally, even if it's just, you know, a part-time on the weekends, working at a tasting room, or even volunteering is certainly it's nice if you can get paid for the work you do. But in order to be successful in this industry, you need to get your hands on as quickly as you can, and complementing what we're teaching you in the academic setting with hands-on working, networking, and seeing what's actually happening in the trade is a perfect combination to get you set up for success the minute you walk out the door after the 2-year program. So wine and viticulture technician is really focusing, as I say, on the production side, but we do incorporate some of the business into that program. We want you to graduate as a very well-rounded, semi-expert, semi-jack of all trades, semi-expert. The expertise and your mastery will certainly be more on the growing and production winemaking side of things, but you'll be able to sit in those, divisional meetings in the boardroom, in the winery that you end up working for, and having good conversations with the accounting team and the finance team, and having good conversations with the sales and marketing team, and being able to contribute ideas to help them do their jobs better. And we really want to make sure that you get a very good taste of all aspects of the business, so that you can fit in wherever it is your passion lies. And that may require additional schooling after, or it may not. But at the very least, you can have a good conversation and feel with confidence, you can feel at peace and in the right place, no matter which aspect of the business you're working in, the winery you're working in. So let's move ahead to the aforementioned requirements. These are important. I think a lot of students will tell you, and Abby, one of our current students, will maybe chime in on some level with respect to which courses she's finding most challenging, perhaps. But certainly if I look historically at the feedback we get from some of our students, the science aspects of this course are fairly intensive and fairly demanding. And, we do cram quite a lot into a semester. So you have to have great time management skills, and you have to be committed to attending the classes and doing the work outside of the classes and staying on top of projects, not letting things get sort of too far behind. If you're doing all of those things, then I think all of this is absolutely doable, and you can excel in every aspect of the program. But coming in equipped with a fairly good and somewhat recent understanding of English, of course, math, biology, chemistry, biology or chemistry, ideally both, really sets you up for success. And then, you're not having to devote extra hours to tutoring or to getting back into a comfort zone with these subjects, which theoretically takes away from the time that you can devote to some of the other subjects you're in. So, take that aspect quite seriously and make sure that you're ready to tackle these courses with great confidence and a fairly current OSSD level of knowledge. So what makes this particular institution so special? Well, frankly, there's nothing like it in the world. And that's not hyperbole. That is the facts. There is nowhere else in the world where you can attend a college that has its own commercial winery, its own commercial brewery, its own commercial distillery as the 3 core products. But of course, we're producing cider on site, and we're producing liqueurs on site, and we're producing a range of other beverage alcohol products. I don't think we've tackled sake yet, but who knows, that could be right around the corner. And then you add to that the culinary side of the Canadian Food and Wine Institute and the horticulture side. The fact that you're smack dab in the largest wine producing region in Canada, which is very quickly getting a reputation for world-class wines. We've always been known for our ice wines, but the world is now taking our table wines very seriously and our sparkling wines very seriously. And that's important because when the world knows about the caliber of wines we're producing where you went to school, then that opens up all sorts of other possibilities for your practicum. Where do you want to do the practical aspects of your training? It's logical you would do it at one of our more than 170 wineries in the local area, because they're always very keen to get our students on board. They know the caliber of students that we're producing, and they're very, very keen to work with them. And yet you may say, well, I've always wanted to go to the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, or I'm really interested now that COVID is behind us and really not such the issue that it was in the past, that I can cross the border and I can work in the Finger Lakes, or I can actually use contacts through my professors and various other contacts I've developed over time to maybe get a job in Sonoma or Napa, because I'm very interested in working in more of a Mediterranean climate, hot and dry, and learning more about some of the issues with regards to sustainability and water shortages and global climate change. These are all really important current issues that we really try to stay on top of. But you as an individual student decide what it is that you are most passionate about, and maybe where your natural talent lies, or your experience or your exposure lies. That's always the place we think you should go, and we'll do everything we can to support you to ensure that can happen. That's just part of the story. Experiential learning, absolutely. You come to this program and you get the chance to pick ice wine for maybe the first time in your life. Hopefully it's not the last time you do it. It's some find picking grapes with bare hands at minus 10 degrees in the dead of night not to be the most enjoyable thing possible, but it's if you just look at it that way, maybe it doesn't sound super appealing, or maybe it sounds like the best thing ever. The fact is you're doing it with all of your peers. The rest of the class is there, and even students from other classes might participate in the harvest, and your professors are there, and your professors' dogs are there. And there's hot chocolate, and there's beautiful fresh baked bread that comes from our culinary team immediately after, and you have breakfast together. And it's this ceremony that goes far beyond just the picking of grapes. That's just one of the examples of some of the experiential learning. Of course, we encourage getting to know what's happening at our brewery. Even if you're in the wine program, go and visit the brewery and see what they're doing over there, and try some of the incredible student beers and commercial beers they're producing. Get over to the distillery, and it's a little bit challenging to get access to because it's a fairly small facility, but the products themselves are absolutely available in our winery retail store. And that crossover is important because, again, that's part of the networking. It's meeting students and faculty from other programs, because you just don't know necessarily on day one what your future holds and what aspect of the business you want to get to. And if you are networking and trying to volunteer and trying to participate in as many aspects of beverage alcohol as you can, then a lot of the questions you come in with get answered, and the path that you were unsure about becomes a little more clear to you. So we try to incorporate that as much as possible into our programming. Hands-on, hands-on, hands-on. The campus is spectacular. As I've said, we've got, not only do we have the actual commercial winery, it's what we call the teaching winery, but it is a commercial winery where there are products produced by our chief winemaker, Gavin Robertson, who is a graduate of this program. But we also have on-site vineyards, and we're in the midst of replanting some of those vineyards. And so if you're a student in this coming cohort, then you'll be part of that kind of birth process of brand new vineyards and seeing what it involves, rootstock selection and clonal selection and the planting process and the maintenance and the risks and all of that. It's all very hands-on and very real life. But we also have a second set of vineyards off campus, which are really not that far away. You could probably cycle there in 12 minutes. And that's another part of the experience, a different range of grape varieties, a different set of parameters to be exposed to learn about. So it's not like you're sitting in a classroom and you're being preached at by a subject matter expert at the front of the room and making all of these notes and memorizing all these PowerPoints and then being dropped into a job in the wine industry 2 years later. It's absolutely not that. It's a mix of the lab work that you're going to do in the chemistry labs. It's the mix of the face-to-face learning that you'll do on campus, and possibly some of the, depending on the situation, the virtual learning that we'll do through our Blackboard Collaborate learning enterprise system. But it's also getting into the vineyards. It's also making wines. You're making wines throughout the entire process. And in fact, we're so proud that we finally, after all of these years, are in a position to, as the beer people have done already so successfully for so long, and the distillery folks have done in the early days of their program, we finally have student wines that are going to be considered for promotion, legitimate commercial promotion for the very first time ever. So that will be really exciting as well. You're not just making wine for yourself and your friends, but it might actually be a product that becomes a commercial entity that you can see the sort of all of your work paid these dividends sort of at the end of the day. More details on that if you do in fact take the program, but that's just another aspect of, you know, how we're trying to make this as real and as vibrant and an experience as possible. Lots of awards, both on campus. Our winemaker, Gavin, is a superstar, maybe one of the most exciting young winemakers in North America. He really is incredibly hardworking. He's very talented. He's traveled the world. He's made wine in many different parts of the world. And so he brings all that expertise and that passion into his teaching, because he will be a teacher as well as our winemaker. But he, you know, his first job really is to make wine, and he gets paid to do that. And he wins an awful lot of awards doing that. And that's, again, brings more attention to our program and to the caliber of our students. But, you know, the awards go beyond that. You look at some of our graduates, Paul Pender, who's at Tawes, a local winery, Tawes in Redstone. I mean, he's won maybe more awards than any of the graduates from our program in history. Very, very successful working with that operation. You know, Yvonne Irving at Creekside and Queenston Mile, and she's got her own project now, her own wine project that she's doing as a young entrepreneur. And we've seen that done a number of times. We've got quite a number of people working in BC, Michael Anderson at Summerhill, and Mike Smith, who's working more on the vineyard side of things out in the Okanagan Valley. And the list goes on and on. Just amazing number of students, students who are New Zealand, students who've worked in California, students who are taking advanced enology degrees, or possibly even going into the sensory sommelier side of things and going to Europe to do that, because we've been able to help sort of set the stage for that and facilitate that process. So the awards come in many shapes and form, and you can be a part of that. Obviously, you know, in order to stay relevant, we have to stay current and innovative. And so Ron Giesbrecht, who's one of our most senior full-time professors in the wine program, has decades and decades of winemaking under his belt, commercial winemaking, most notably at Henry Appellum in Niagara for many, many years. But he's now making wine on the side with a winery, a new winery in Niagara, and doing some really wonderful things there as well. He and Tom Schultz, who's another member of our faculty, very strong on the chemistry side of things, and Gavin and Amanda Leduc, who's a graduate of the program and is working as a lab assistant and a teacher, and Jen Wilhelm and me and everybody else that really, frankly, is going to be interacting with you. We're always trying to stay current, and we're always trying to stay on top of all aspects of the business, including the new equipment that we're always getting our hands on. And it's really exciting to see the equipment we get, because a lot of time it's custom made equipment for our facility, because we want student-sized, project-sized equipment. We're not necessarily in a position to get a 10,000 liter, you know, fermenter or a 4-ton press. We need the kind of equipment that works for our students, where they can make individual batch or in small teams, small batch wines. And we have all of that equipment here, so that the quality of the wines is at the highest level, but you're using the modern technologies. And if we don't have the equipment here, but our team, our faculty feels it's important for you to learn about it, then we reach out to wineries. And that's what the field trips are about. That's what the winery visits are about, to go look at an optical sorter up at Vineland and spend some time with Brian Schmidt and learn about how that top technology works. You know, the modern filtration systems that are available, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So always staying at the cutting edge, so that you don't get out into the industry and not know what a piece of equipment is meant to do and how to operate it. We're really trying to expose you to as much of that, right down to getting you the tractor training and the forklift training that you need to operate, you know, day to day in a winery. we talked about the vineyard, so I won't go into any detail here. This is just a vineyard planting map of from 2020 that just gives you a little bit of a sense of the layout. But rather than sort of look at a two-dimensional image, I encourage you to come to the college and check it out for yourself if you haven't done so already. I'm really sorry that our open house isn't face-to-face so I can meet you all personally, but I look forward to that opportunity whenever the opportunity presents itself. But without further ado, let's talk to some of the people that I think make these open houses so valuable, starting with one of our amazing young students, Abia Rabia, and I handpicked Abia to be a part of this presentation because she's doing all the right things. She's taking her schooling very seriously. She's volunteering wherever she can. She's passionate. She's engaged. She's got a great smile on her face. She always seems to be happy. At least when I'm around her, she helps me set up my labs for some of my sensory courses. And I'm just delighted to see her enthusiasm for the program. And maybe, Abby, you can tell us a little bit about what puts that smile on your face and whether it's always a smile or am I telling stories here? And maybe there's some days that it's not quite so happy.
That was quite the intro. Wow, I feel so special.
Well,
thank you for that. It's always a smile every single time. I cannot speak highly enough about this program. It's honestly, I think it might be the best thing I've ever done. I could talk for hours and hours and hours about it, but I'll try to keep this short and sweet. This program is honestly so incredible, and it's probably just because it's so experiential. Everything you do is hands-on, and even if it's not hands-on and you're sitting in a classroom, chances are whatever you learn in that classroom, you're going to be doing within the next week. It's just it's so incredible that way. So for one, I'll talk really quickly about how fast you're thrown into everything in the program. And it is difficult. It's a very hard program, but it's very helpful that it is so hands-on because you're learning as you go. So we're doing a fermentation project, which is really fun because it's only my first year and I'm already starting to make wine. So that's really, really incredible. But one of the better things is that you learn so much about literally everything in the program, from actually making the wine to the marketing side of the winemaking industry, to even the sensory analysis and everything you would do as a sommelier or working in a restaurant or anything like that. You get so much knowledge about every single facet of the industry. And I think that's one of the really big things about this program that makes it so great, is that even if you do choose to just be a winemaker or anything, you have the information and the knowledge at your fingertips about every other part of the winemaking industry. So I came into this program and I decided, I had kind of already thought that I'd wanted to be a winemaker, and everybody comes into this program with different ideas about what their life is going to look like after they finish this program. But I had already decided sort of that I wanted to be a winemaker because that was sort of what I was most interested in and the reason that I was so drawn to this program. But a lot of my friends who are thinking of being distributors or sellers for different wineries are grateful that they're going to learn the winemaking process, because if anybody comes up to them with questions about how the wine is made, they have that information available to them to be able to talk to anybody who asks them these questions and know exactly what it is that they're talking about, which is really incredible. Another thing that I sort of briefly touched on is that the program is very hard. It's very content heavy, but it's so worth it in the end if you have the background in science. So I have already been to university, so I had a big gap in between high school and doing this, but I did end up taking grade 11 chemistry and grade 12 biology, and I can't tell you how helpful that is to have that under your belt just going into any of these courses in the program. Chemistry is not my greatest subject and neither is biology, but having the background information from high school is really, really helpful in doing these classes. So, but it also, like I was saying, it's a lot of experiential learning as well. So when you're doing these fermentations and you're learning about how much SO2 you need to add to a wine, that same week, you're going to be learning about SO2 in wine, in chemistry, and what it means from a chemical perspective to have that addition put into your wine, as well as learning about it in the winemaking class. So all of it really goes together. So hopefully it's not too hard, but experience as you go is really, really one of the best things about this program. So hopefully awesome. That explains it.
Thanks, Abby. That's fantastic. Really appreciate your enthusiasm and your honesty. I'm glad you talked about the tough aspects. Let's hear from somebody who graduated from this program just a few years ago and has done a few things since they graduated, who is now a professor of ours, a full-time professor and program coordinator for the Artisan Distilling Program, and that's Andrea. Andrea, take a moment or two. Say hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm actually really excited to be here because I love being an ambassador of the program, no matter where I am in the world. And I just have so much to say about it because, well, I have three things to say about this in particular. The first thing that I want to say to anyone out there who's thinking about taking this program and goes, I don't know anything about wine. I signed up for this program literally knowing absolutely nothing. I knew nothing about wine. I didn't even like wine. And that's kind of my dirty little secret. And I told my parents I wanted to take this program and they're like, but you don't like wine. How is that going to work out? And I go, I'm going to learn to love it. And I can say for sure that I did. And it was very intimidating because sometimes there were other people in the program who had a vast amount of experience. And it can be intimidating, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because we all start from a certain point and the professors in the program take you up to that point. So never be hesitant and never think that there's going to be other people out there that know so much more. There will be, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn and grow. And the resources that you have at the college are absolutely incredible. So much so that this leads me to my second point about the college that I really loved, is that when I started the program, I knew I wanted to be in wine, but I didn't understand in what capacity I wanted to do it. And I sat down with my program coordinator at the time, Jen Wilhelm, who's still with the program. And basically she helped me map out my life. What do you want to do? How do you want to accomplish this? And how can I help you? And I ended up from there doing an MBA in the UK, focusing on wine, working under an MW, so a Master of Wine, which, there's not that many in the world to learn from. So I was learning one-on-one with this MW for several years over in the UK, which was just a brilliant experience. But without my experience at Niagara College, I would have never got there. And then afterwards, because I learned when I was at college, the more you get involved, the further ahead you get, and the more you just kind of get sucked into this web of love for the industry. I kept on going. So I took other courses like WSET Level 4. I ended up winning a scholarship on a global level, which was sponsored by Moet Hennessy UK. And Moet Hennessy is part of LVMH, which owns Louis Vuitton, but it also owns Dom Perignon, Veuve Clicquot, Hennessy Cognac, Belvedere Vodka. And then I ended up working for them for several years in London, England, and having an amazing time. And the one thing that I will say that I loved about this college is that when I was working for Moet Hennessy, I was going to Bordeaux for business trips. I was going to Chateau Cheval Blanc, Haut-Brion, all these like massive, incredibly well-known and well-respected wineries, some of the biggest in the world. And I could sit down next to the winemaker and I could hold my own. There was never any worry of me not having enough wine knowledge or being present enough. And the college really, really gave me that experience that I could talk with these world-class winemakers and never feel intimidated by them. So that's something that I don't feel you can get from a lot of places, but here certainly you can. And several years later, when I missed home, I moved back. I will say that the college is such an incredible environment that I actually invited several of my professors to my wedding. So that shows how strong the ties are when you graduate from here. And that's really what I wanted to say.
I love that part of the story. I didn't know. Sorry, I wasn't here teaching you then. I would have loved to.
You weren't here at the time. No, I was before that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, for sharing that part of the story as well. I think we're just about wrapped up on the wine and viticulture side of things. So I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Adrian, to take it from here. Thank you, everybody. And certainly I'll stick around to the end. If there's any more questions I can answer, you can always type them in the Q&A and I'll do my best.
Unmute first. Welcome. I would like to begin maybe just by echoing some of the same comments that actually transferred from what Peter and Andrea and Avi had mentioned. I mean, this program is dated from, I guess it's its 11th year, 2010, as you saw in the previous slides, right? So a lot of the learnings of fundamental importance of how to teach and what to teach and how to, to expand on the learning so that it gives opportunity for future growth for the students was kind of learned from there. And I've been involved actually with the program prior to it actually being a program at Niagara College. I was part of the Ontario Craft Brewers Association. I was the chair of their technical committee. And I remember distinctly when John Downing, John Grislow, the other deans that were there at the time, coming to the OCB and saying, hey, what do you think if we started a program? And I did my formal education in Germany. And I have a prior university background in a master's degree in organic chemistry. I did a whole bunch of things, worked in biotech for 12 years, then did business development for biotech companies out in California. So I kind of came around a long way to actually getting back into beer, but I've always loved beer. I knew in high school I wanted to be a brewmaster. It's kind of funny, I know, but I was born in Quebec, and so, leave it at that. But nonetheless, I love the marriage of science and the result and the accomplishment that you can do. And unlike wine, which I love wine as well, it's a shorter turnaround time for most things in terms of, being able to enjoy things. You don't have to wait a year or more, right, till it's actually optimal. There are some beers that do take, years to make and come out that way as well. But nonetheless, I mean, it's just an amazing process. And echoing all the things that are fundamentally important from a student, and the drive that they have and the willingness to learn is as key here. So I just wanted to introduce you to the team that we have right now. I mean, we do have part-timers that come in and help out as well, but you're looking at probably close to certainly well over 100 years of experience just on this. You can tell by the grayness in some of our beards, but for sure, this team here, I could speak to the gentleman on the top left, Nate Ferguson. Was my predecessor as coordinator in this role, but he not only teaches, but has worked at various breweries, but he's also co-founder of the Escarpment Yeast Company. He brings that knowledge of yeast and other microbial components that are important in beer directly to our lectures, right? Rob Doyle, a graduate of Heriot Watt. So that's one of the other formal schools out in the UK. Worked at Mill Street, worked at various other breweries as well, including Sleeman's. So a lot of experience right there. John Downing, who's basically the brewmaster of the teaching brewery, well over 20 years, probably pushing 30, installed hundreds of different breweries around the world and is connected to so many people around the world. It's not even funny, but such a generous person with regards to sharing his knowledge and education. There's myself. I've sort of described some of my background, but I've been actually in the brewing business now pushing 20 years as well. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a crazy journey. My good friend, George Eagleson, who I've known for many, many, many years as well. He's been in the industry at least over 25 years, I think by now, and has worked at all kinds of breweries. So he's head brewer and is responsible for your day-to-day learning of a lot of the experiential stuff that you do in the brewery. And of course, Victor North, my other colleague here, he's our student liaison, and he also has a lot of experience. He comes from a different background, more on the arts side, but he started his own brewery and at one point in time. And he shares that, the negative knowledge or the hard-earned knowledge because it didn't work out for him. But on the other hand, that's important too, right? And, gaining the knowledge of not just what works, but how to do things. And he's a phenomenally gifted teacher as well, and you have him for other. So I'm not going to reiterate the slide because it's pretty similar requirements as to what Peter had mentioned for the wine program. So maybe we'll just jump to the next one. Everybody likes a brewery. It's much more, typically much more informal environment than others. This is an example of a visit that we had from Rick Mercer way back when, but brewery is a very collaborative kind of industry. And you'll see that in the other slides, even though and certainly the one thing I can speak to, and this is true, I think, in probably every single brew school, but especially at Niagara, is you do develop a camaraderie with your fellow students that you carry on through afterwards, right? The networking that you do at the time and then afterwards. And we have, like an alumni Facebook page almost that people, still tie into after many years after they graduate, right? We now have graduates that are, 11 years out. So they're still sharing and coming back to share their knowledge, which is amazing. Yeah, so this, just to reiterate some of these, the amazing thing about the awards that we've won at this brewery is that these are all brewed by the students. And yeah, we have our regular brands, but some of their other student created brands also do win medals. But our regular 101 teaching brewery brands consistently win awards, despite being very inconsistent in who's brewing them. It's just new students all the time that come in. So that speaks to the consistency in the knowledge and approach that they have, right, as they're winning, as they're creating those beers, making those beers. I always say is everyone can make a great beer once, right? The key is being consistent and doing it well. And what's interesting about the program as well is we tie into, of course, technology, as Peter mentioned, sensory evaluation from the get-go through your 4 semesters. We teach about QC, brewery operations, management type things, business, because you never know what you're going to end up with, right? Some folks want to brew, that's great. Some people want to be maybe a manager. Some people want to run a lab. So we give you the tools to be able to go in whichever direction you like. Definitely hands-on, you know, and I think we're seeing that more as we're coming out of the pandemic, so even better. But we've always had our hands-on components throughout the pandemic, which is absolutely important. And as Peter mentioned, we're part of the CFWY, so there's a lot of fun competitions that hopefully we'll be able to start back between the wine and the beer folks called Caps, Corks, and Forks, which is a phenomenal thing. And we also give you the skill sets to pursue other certification later on if you really want, such as IBD. Yeah, so we mentioned experiential learning. There's a few things that I'd like to just point out here. You can see in the sort of, if we can go back a slide. You can see in the faded out background, that's a room in one of our sensory classes. This is actually from a beer club event. So we have, you know, we bring in professional breweries to come in and speak. We also host competitions. So it's a shared environment to be able to actually sample and taste beers. If you look at the middle piece where you see the person looking at the small tanks, these are part of our pilot systems. So those are about holding about I'd say about 1 barrel-ish, a little bit higher than that of beer potentially. So you brew on small scales, but you'll see in the later slide that you actually brew in large scale as well. There's a capstone event as well for us called Project Brew. That's on the top right corner. And then if you look at the bottom right-hand side, you'll also note that we have a hop field on campus as well. And the students have to use those hops for their target brews in the 3rd semester. We also teach a lot of science, right? That's a key part to doing it reproducibly, doing it well, is you have to understand the science, and that's a key part for sure. Next slide. There's also a chance for students to not only you know, hone their skills, but when we get a chance to meet some of our students coming up here, that they have a chance to work at the college as well. And some of them definitely work in various breweries outside of the area. There's still almost like 20 some odd breweries in the Niagara area alone. So they get to participate in that as well. But I just wanted to highlight this one just to give you an example of the larger scale brew house. This is called the craft system. And just to speak as well of the camaraderie and, you know, the diversity that we're, you know, trying to engender here, and the sharing of the passion for beer, right? That goes beyond things. We have international students as well as local students that come from across Canada, even from the US. So it's kind of a really amazing energy that I get that motivates me every time I come to class. It's just the amazing people in the program. And the age groups can be, you know, high school graduates all the way up to, I had a student a few semesters ago that was a 7-year-old dentist that was looking for a 3rd career. So we get a pretty broad range of folks that are interested in making beer. Next slide, please. And of course, we have a home brewing competition that we host. We also host certification for brew judge certification as well. And some past themes that we had for that. Next slide, please. I want to just jump through them because I really want to have our students speak and have more time. I'm conscious of that right now. So yeah, you can definitely create your own beers, which is amazing. We also sponsor and have trips abroad to help educate and bring to bear. So there was a tour that you can see the background behind me. These are the students that went on this Germany tour when we had that. And you know, it's a phenomenal experience to actually be able to feel and live what culture is regarding brewing, and especially in areas where there's just, you know, literally hundreds of years of that brewing culture in there, and to be able to get a chance to experience that firsthand is a lot of fun. So that's something that's also open. Next, please. The most frequent thing about, will you get a job? I can say absolutely. If that's what you want to do, you will find work in this industry. Our graduates are well over 95% placement. So usually the times that people don't, they opt out of different careers for whatever reason. But yeah, it's very, very high placement rate, despite the fact that there's there's phenomenal growth in the industry, right? When I started brewing in Ontario, there was about 35 breweries. Now we're close to 350, right? So and part of it is, I think, is we created some of that within the college with all the graduates that come out. They just, help create and more of the business and more of the drive for craft brewing. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling thing in some sense. So just as an example, we're just going to scroll through this. It's in the immediate GTA area. We have literally, many, many grads that come out of this. Next slide up, just to give you the scope. I mean, I can't even begin to list just how many graduates we have. GTA, Southern Golden Horseshoe. We can expand on this to the next slide, please. So even across the area throughout the province of Ontario, we're talking literally all over the place. Next slide, please. Across the country and in other parts of the world. I have a student that's actually working through their visa process to work in Germany. Can you imagine that? Germany usually exports beer and brewmasters, and here we are sending one over there. It's really amazing. And so I'd like to begin by some of our really amazing students that are going to come in. We have Courtney, who is in our second semester, who very gifted on the sensory analysis side. And she's in one of my classes for that, but she's also we're really grateful to have her come and share some of her perspective on this. So Courtney.
Hello. So I'll just go a little bit, I guess, in what it would be like, how I felt before I started. I worked in hospitality, so I knew a lot about beer, but on the serving aspect of it. And even knowing a little bit about that and the process and draft lines, I felt confident coming in that I knew a little bit about it. And then when I came in, I realized I didn't know how much I was going to learn in this program and how much I didn't know pretty much in the beginning. And it is a little overwhelming even starting these programs because of all the knowledge they're giving you. I remember in the beginning being a little overwhelmed by all the work and the things that we were going to be learning, but I definitely feel very confident in it now. And as things are growing and things build directly on themselves, now being in second semester, a lot of it has played off the first semester and it's going deeper into that and everything makes more sense. So as much as at first it seemed like a lot, they almost go more broad, so you get an idea of everything and then everything gets a little bit more in tuned, and then you can almost follow down these rabbit holes of different places you want to go, from tasting and judging to working in the equipment or starting your own brewery or just doing sales and things like that, and taking this knowledge to a different place. I think that's a big reason why there are a lot of people that get placements and you will get a job, because there are a bunch of things you're going to be trained for and a lot of knowledge that you're going to have that are going to be really well applied. And you definitely feel like you make progress throughout the whole place. When we first brewed the first day, we walked into the brewery and I'm standing there, and then we made a recipe and we brewed the first day in this program. We were brewing, and it was the first time I had brewed before. And with the comparison to other people, some people brewed at home a lot. One guy in the class doesn't even drink beer. He doesn't really like the taste, but he's learned a lot about beer. So there's not necessarily have to worry about what you're coming about it for. Just be willing to learn and enjoy it, because it is a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Thank you, Courtney. Really appreciate that perspective. Yeah, we do try to, as students progress, we immediately, throw you into the bathwater, get you started on that. And then each semester is a little bit more ingrained or more detailed. Certainly, like by the time you get to the third semester, you're brewing target brews. And by the time you get to your fourth semester, that's when you start to create all kinds of funny things that are, outside the box, so to speak. And so I'm sure that Angela will speak maybe next to that, because she's in the middle of doing her target brew components. So maybe we can move on to Angela at this point, if that's okay.
All right, just had to unmute myself. Welcome everyone. As Adrian suggested, I'm Angela. I'm in my third term in the program, and Really pleased to chat with you all today. I have a bit of a different background and a different path from some that you may have encountered so far. This is actually my second career. I'm in my mid-40s and I am the oldest student in my class. I spent my first 20 odd years, or I guess less than that, but close to, working in social sciences. I have a law background and also social science background. So this is something completely new. And one of the things I want to say to everyone, I know we've emphasized that there is a lot of math and there is a lot of science, but you can absolutely do this. I need everyone to feel confident and don't panic about any of this because you are so well supported in this program. We have wonderful instructors who really, truly want to see us all succeed. And, you know, what Peter and what Adrian have said is absolutely true across both programs. You have to put in the work, but it's absolutely manageable. And there is just so many rich opportunities. So I think it's great that all of you are, you know, willing to take the plunge into this because it can be so rewarding. I'm working on my target brew right now, as Adrian's saying, and I was one of the first students of the term to do it. And despite the fact that I didn't necessarily have all the pieces in place yet because the semester just started, I had so many resources available to me across the instructors in the teaching brewery as well. And I never felt alone. And again, like what we do matters, not just our target brew, but everything we do week over week in the brewery as well. And that gives you a real sense of meaning. You know, every week we're producing beers that we sell. So this isn't just something that we're goofing around with. I mean, it's, you know, it's real and it's real from the beginning. And you know, you take it seriously because of that. And it is truly very rewarding. Another thing I want to touch on is the fact that, you know, you're choosing a program that has such experienced instructors. And that was one of the reasons why I chose Niagara, because, you know, Adrian's spoken to his own experience, but really what's wonderful is everyone has industry experience. You're not talking to you're not working with lifelong professors. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you have people that can speak to their own experiences and they can give you advice and they can provide you with guidance that is actually grounded in the real world. And that has been incredibly rewarding. I could go on for hours. I won't because we don't have that much time, but I really do think that you're making a wonderful choice. There's so many opportunities beyond just brewing. You know, I don't expect that I'm going to be brewing per se myself. I will be pursuing something more in the business and management side of it, but you have to understand all aspects in order to make those choices. And what's great about the program is you get a bit of all of it. Yes, you're in the brewery every week, but you're also in lab. You're learning about equipment. You're learning about history, which gives you that lovely context. It's not simply, you know, single dimensional, you know, throwing in the grains week over week. That's fun. And that is certainly part of it, but there's just so much more. And so I look forward to seeing some of you. I'm still around next semester, so come say hi, because as I go into my fourth term, I would just love to be able to help and give advice and do anything I can just to make your experience enjoyable and as successful as it can be. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. That was really, and thank you for being so willing to share. And that's kind of what I think at the core of you see in a lot of our students is, especially in the brewing side of things. I mean, like I said, many industries compete with each other, even though my saying when I learned in Germany was, let the marketers and salespeople, they'll fight. We're brewers, we help each other. That's kind of in the loose end. So thank you so much, Angela. And then maybe we can move on, next slide, to Corey. Corey's been an amazing student throughout this whole process. Right now, he's, well, I can let him speak to what he's doing, but because I want to mention this in terms of opportunities, right? We have opportunities for our students to participate in active parts of our teaching. Corey right now is working in the teaching brewery as an assistant, and maybe he could describe a little bit about that and maybe talk about his experience as well. Corey?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I am in the brewery about 4 to 5 times a week. I am a brewery tech there. So what that involves is basically I am assisting incoming students. I'm making sure that health safety is first and foremost being followed, but there to help with any of their possible gaps in knowledge, also to give them a hand. But I do have a lot of conversations with newer students in terms of, questions about assignments, questions about experiences that they're having, and how to give them that hand just from a student's perspective. So everyone else has been talking really well about the program. So I'm just going to talk to the fact that I'm going to be actually, this is my last term here, so exiting. These teachers have been unbelievable. Just like Peter and Adrian were both touching on, they are everywhere, the graduates of the program. I've been actively actually applying at different breweries. I have yet to apply to a brewery that actually doesn't have at least one graduate of the program, which is pretty unbelievable. And even if I might not have a direct connection, or one of the teachers doesn't have a direct connections, they actually know a student and then knows a person that puts you right into contact with them. So the connections, the actual friends that you're going to gain from this is a huge thing. Not only are you going to get connections to our local industry, I mean, there's students from Japan, from South Korea, from China, India, Brazil. I have a lot of open invitations to go there, so that's pretty exciting. I'd love to go there. But yeah, it's just the experiences they're once in a lifetime. It's amazing. I've come from, well, I haven't actually been in school since about 13, 14 years now. So now this is me coming in. I didn't even know I had those credits from when I did high school. So I had to really push myself into all of this. It's getting yourself in with the teachers right away, talking about them, open communication. They're there to support you. They'll go the extra mile. They'll stay after class. Whatever questions there are, they're there for you. So just utilize that. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And also, like everyone was talking about, practical experiences. My gosh, there's so much stuff there. If you've got some weird off the cuff ideas about recipes, I mean, they're there to support you. You're going to be making some strange stuff that perhaps no one else has tried, and they're there to support you. So anyways, yeah, it's been a great experience, and yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Corey. Just to reiterate, we love making stuff that no one's tried. It's even more fun.
Absolutely.
Than we buy traditional stuff. But yeah, that's part of the thing, because you get a chance here to express yourself in ways that you may not be able to in a production setting as well, right? So that's part of what we're trying to nurture, taking the fundamental knowledge and having fun with it as well by the time you're done. So maybe I'll just leave this. There's only a few more minutes, but I'd like to leave some room for last minute questions. Here's our contact information for Peter and myself. More than happy to chat offline anytime, answer any of your questions about the program, help guide as much as we can as well, help you make the most informed decision. But hopefully what you've seen today is compelling to you, because it is a lot of fun. It's a great experience for the student. It's as fun for the student as it is for us, because I love watching them grow and learn more, and to see them go from, being, cautiously approaching that first brew to making these amazing things by their fourth term is just a great experience. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. I don't know what else is on the next slides, but it might be in our closing. Yeah.
There is just one question here in the Q&A about the age requirement for the Brewmaster course. They are saying here they would only be 18 in September when courses start. The age requirement is 19. Is there any way they could start in September, or would they have to wait for the next intake? They turn, I guess 18 October 7th. So, or sorry, 19 October 7th. So a couple 19. Weeks after.
That's a good question. I think what we'd have to do is, that is a really good question. We'd have to take that offline, Connor.
Maybe
ask, we should pass that to our associate dean, and just to make sure that we can find out a bit more. Mavis is actually typing something in there.
Yeah, I'll send you even my email, and Connor, if you send me an email, then I'll forward it up there to get that answer for you.
Yeah. Because I mean, we'd have to make some accommodations at first. So I'm not saying it's not impossible, but it's something that we'd have to look at from a, you know, a legal requirement kind of side thing. But
thank you so much for joining us today. This does wrap up the formal presentation. We do still have lots going on for today's open house. So I encourage you guys to connect with us further or connect with our services through following the regular website there. But thank you so much for attending, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.